What's good, everybody? I'm back with another tutorial on some drum programming tips, and today we're going to go into Reason and we're going to load up a drum break and chop that up. So first of all, I'm going to load up an audio track and we'll import an audio file. In the tool window, you can just drag over the audio track into the rack. Then from there, I just go to the menu and select the import audio file, which takes me to my external hard drive where I keep all my sounds. And I have a label or a folder labeled drum breaks, where I keep all my gems at. Today we're going to go with the classic Honey Drippers, Impeach the President. So now that's loaded up, we'll give it a listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have the Honey Drippers in the house tonight, and they just got back from Washington, D.C. I think they got something they want to say.
Alright, so I know what you're thinking. Honey Drippers has been used a million times. Why are you going to use that again? But we're actually going to use this in the context of the groove of the actual drum break, not the drum break itself. That's something you can do in Reason 7, is extract the groove from a Rex loop. So first of all, we're just going to chop this down to a 1-bar loop, since the break just loops after one bar. I mean, essentially the drums are the same in the second bar. So I already had it truncated to the first kick, and then I'm just going to chop the end of the break so it's a nice evenly looped 1-bar break. And the auto editing inside of Reason 7 isn't extensive, maybe as Recycle, but you can get the job done. And so I'm going to readjust my tempo here. Then I'm going to turn the snap back on and use the Alt Option key when you drag that, so the time stretch feature is enabled. And so now we should have a 1-bar break all chopped up and looped. And so in order to export this into a Rex loop, we need to double click on the drum break and here I'm just going through the the tempo changes to see where I want to work with. And now that I double clicked it, it shows my different chops in the break, and everything looks good. And we're just going to bounce that to a Rex loop. And now that gets assigned over there if you want to use your tool window. In the unsigned samples, it will have like an audio file there in the Rex format, audio track. And in order to apply that, we're just going to open up a Dr. Octo Rex player. And once again, I just drag that from the tool window into the rack. And we're going to load up the drum break that we just chopped up. So if you go to the folder, and then in this menu, you go to the song samples, and there is the Rex loop that we just created, and it's already loaded up in the Dr. Octo Rex. And here you can perform the different editing features that the Octo Rex allows you to do, but that's kind of not the purpose of what we're doing in this tutorial. So if you have the enable playback button pushed, which is kind of there at the top of the unit, you can hear the playback of the Rex loop, and it has the knobs there corresponding to the slices that allow for pitch variation, reverse sound, some different editing features that are nice to work with sometimes. Filtering, which can be automated, which you hear a lot of songs these days that are using the filtered out drums, and it's usually just a simple automation. But we're going to get this Rex loop down into our sequencer, and there's where you can actually extract the groove from the Rex loop, which is what we're going to do, because everybody knows the Impeach the President Honey Drippers break has a nice groove to it. That's why it's been used a million times. So there's something about that drum loop that you don't usually get with program drums that just works for hip hop. And so now there's just the copy to track button on the Dr. Octarex places the Rex loop down into our sequencer. And I muted the audio track, so that's really no longer needed at this point, but I usually just keep it there in case maybe there's something else I wanted to edit, kind of as a non-destructive means of working with my drums. So now we have the Honey Drippers or the Rex loop into the sequencer is what we wanted, and now I'm going to create a redrum, and I've got some drums loaded up where I'm basically going to play or program a drum loop similar to that of the Honey Breakers, or the Honey Drippers, and I'm going to program this drum loop, and we're going to take the groove from the Honey Drippers break and apply it to the program drums that I'm creating in the redrum. So that's going to give us some instant groove using the regroove feature that you don't normally get with the Reason factory presets. I mean, they have some nice MPC grooves in there, but this way you actually get to emulate the groove of an actual drum break, which you could do with some of the drum breaks that are featured in the Rex loop files inside of the Reason factory sound bank. So you don't have to have some of these drum breaks that are sought after hip hop breaks or whatnot. You can just load up a drum break you like the groove of that's already in the Reason factory sound bank, and just did the same method. I just applied loading it up as a Rex loop and then extracting that groove, which we'll get to here in a minute, and applying that to the sequencer in the regroove section, which we'll do here as well if you're not unfamiliar with that. So now I've copied the drum loop that I created. I tried to kind of follow the same pattern with the kicks and the hi-hats to kind of create a Honey Drippers like drum preset, drum break, and in order to give it that more human feel, that's where I'm going to take the groove from the Honey Drippers break itself and apply that to my program drums. So first what I like to do is put all the individual drum hits in their own note lane. Usually make things easier for editing later on. And to do that, you just go into your tool window under utilities and then explode into new note lanes. And that puts everything still within the redrum. I think I had like my kicks, my snares, my closed hats, and my open hat. So those are the 4 different windows you see now underneath the redrum. And now I clicked on the Rex loop and I said get groove from clip, and that automatically puts the groove, the MIDI, it gets that MIDI information and applies that to groove. It's already down in my regroove as user 1. And so now I can go back into the sequencer window and go to A number 1 and have that user 1 feature. And now we have the groove of the Honey Drippers onto the program drums that I've put down into the sequencer. And I usually do this for, you could do it for the whole drum break, but I tend to leave the snares alone so they're hitting right on the beat, kind of a staple in hip hop. But I mean, you can always have your snares maybe off the beat just slightly to give it a more human feel. But here lately, I think having the snares right on beat sounds a little bit better, just my opinion. But I mean, you can always, depends on every track, kind of tinker with how you want the snares to hit. And the great thing about this feature is when you get the groove from a certain Rex file, is that you can apply it to anything, any MIDI information inside any device you have in your rack. And so I've loaded up another Dr. Octarex, and I'm going to load up a bass line to just kind of start building the basic beat here. And just in order to get that bass line fitting with the drums a little bit better, I'm going to apply that same Honey Drippers groove to the bass line, just so it kind of matches up with the drums and maybe gives the bass line a little bit more characteristics than it would have had with no groove added. And I think that's kind of useful when you're wanting to work with something like a bass line, especially to kind of have it working with the drums and giving it some special groove. And so we're just going to copy the bass line to the track, and I'm going to go ahead and add the Audiomatic effects device here and just kind of give it a little more different characteristic, because it's just kind of one of my pet peeves. Is not when I do work with stock sounds and Rex loops and stuff that I haven't actually sampled, is I never like to use it as I how I first received it. So if it's a stock sound, I usually put an effect on it in this Audiomatic retro device transformer thing. It's really cool. It's just kind of got some different presets, like the vinyl crackle here that I think I'll add to it. It just kind of gives that bass line a sampled feel, like it came off of a record versus just a bass that was recorded in the studio or something. And even though my drums are programmed drums, I still got those drums hitting good, and got the groove to them from the Honey Drippers that give them a little swing. So it just has a real hip hop feel to it, even though we're not using the actual drum break itself. And I've just copied the drums over another bar to equal the amount of the 2-bar loop the bass line was. And so we've got the groove working with the bass line now and the drums that were all originally obtained from the Honey Drippers break itself, which I think is pretty cool that you can just extract the groove from a break. I think I could go endless possibilities with some drum breaks that I like to work with, like the synthetic substitution groove on that break, and the Get Out My Life Woman drums, and just so many classic drum breaks that I can think of that have just a distinct groove to them. The Little Feat drum breaks that Tribe has used, and some of the classic Dilla breaks that he's used, and people have just kind of already manipulated in their own way, but just kind of gives you a chance to maybe work with some drums that aren't distinct to that break, and do your own programming, and then add the groove of the drum break, and kind of create something new. And so here I found just another building a quick beat, just some chords here, showing that we can apply the groove to these as well. So you just copy the track, go down to the little window there, pick the A1 user, that's the groove from the regroove, and so now that all corresponds back to the Honey Drippers break that we initially loaded as its audio. And here I'm going to put an Audiomatic effects device on this as well. And like I said, this is more for tutorial purposes. I'm not really into using a whole lot of loops. I wouldn't probably normally start a track off like this, but I just wanted to get something loaded up quick and apply the groove to it, so you guys could see how that groove applies to not just the drums, but anything you add into the song at this point, and just kind of keeps everything working together. Because when they're working with the same groove, they're just kind of all in sync as far as how they're being played. And here I'll show you guys again just kind of how that varies from, we'll mute the program drums and unmute the Honey Drippers drums, and just show you the impact of what it would sound like if I would have just decided to say, let's use the Honey Drippers drums versus some program drums that I loaded up. And I mean, I could probably beef the Honey Drippers drums up and have them sound a little bit better, but I just kind of like the feel of the program drums versus the drum break itself in this context. Since the samples are a little cleaner, I mean, if you're definitely going for that classic boom bap air sound, then definitely by all means use the original break. I mean, you could even take the Honey Drippers groove and chop up a different drum break, and apply that groove to the sample, another drum break. And that's kind of some ideas I've had myself, is what that would sound like with some drums that are so known for their groove, but how they would sound with a different groove of another classic break. So that's why this is so intriguing to me, just the possibilities that you could do with extracting grooves from not just drums, but maybe bass lines. Like how many bass lines does Premier use that is basically the beat's just a drum break and bass line. I mean, some of those bass lines have carried his beats over the years. I kind of think of the Gangstar and Nice and Smooth, the Wick, definitely the J. Rue, the Damage, You're Playing Yourself. I mean, those were just some classic bass lines that Premier used, and it had definitely the groove of the bass line itself is like what carried those tracks. So feel free to apply this method to more than just drums. I mean, apply it to whatever you like, whatever has that swing that you just want to emulate. So I appreciate everybody checking this out. Stay on them beats, and thanks for your support. Peace.